All right guys, we've been thinking about switching to diesel engines for the houseboat restoration, so we're gonna tear this engine apart today, learn about it, and see if it might be a good option for repowering the houseboat. So to catch y'all up, this is our 1976 43-foot Nautaline houseboat. We had it out on the lake for 10 years and it was finally time to restore it. So we brought it here, we cut it in half so we can extend it, make it into a 50-footer, and that's kind of where we're at today. So the goal for today is, as we tear this diesel engine apart, we're gonna weigh the pros and cons of gas versus diesel in the houseboat restoration, and hopefully by the end of it we're closer to making a decision, and if not, hopefully we learn some stuff along the way. So the gas engine we're going to compare it to is the LS based generation 3 or 4 small block Chevy. We've used these in all kinds of things for years. We know them pretty well. And it's going up against the John Deere 4045 4-cylinder diesel. So the way we got this engine is through Brandon, who you've seen on the channel before. He designs and installs fire systems for skyscrapers and retail buildings. When there's a fire, a pump like this will start up and it'll run to put the fire out. The problem is all the safety systems are disabled on these engines. So low oil, low coolant, overheating, nothing will stop them. They run until they lock up or blow up because their only goal is to put a fire out. And so that's what happened here. It looks like it overheated, it's locked up, it won't turn over. And so that's why it was headed to the scrapyard. It's dirt cheap. Brandon saved it for us so that we can look at the engine and see if it's something we might want to use in the houseboat. It might not even be rebuildable, but we'll find out when we start tearing into it. Whoa! Okay.
Supplies water for fire suppression systems.
In buildings?
Buildings, factories, warehouses, hospitals, hotels.
Okay.
Walmarts, Home Depots, everywhere.
Why are we getting this so cheap?
Because it overheated and the internal condition is unknown.
Okay, so in the fire pump industry, if an engine burns up like this, y'all don't even try to rebuild it. It just goes to scrap, so.
Yeah, any reputable company is gonna just probably replace it. That's where the coolant went. I've been looking all day trying to figure out where all the coolant went. But there it went, right there. Because someone glued a T into the side of a hose. It has 2 starters.
Redundant starters.
Redundant starters, so it has 2 sets of batteries. Got 2 computers, 1, 2.
2 ECUs.
There's a second starter.
But you said it's constant RPM that these are set to, so there's no throttle.
That's correct.
So if we want this in a boat, we'd have to figure out reprogramming these.
Yes.
Getting new ones, or
hopefully somebody can help us
with that part.
Help us with that.
So as we talk about the pros and the cons of the different types of engines, the easiest one to do real quick is weight. So as we lift this off the trailer, we're gonna weigh it, because if we look at options for engines, like the LS engine we're putting in the jet boat, it's about 520 pounds. And I think looking at this thing, it's gonna be way more than that. All right, y'all, place your bets. What's it gonna weigh? 520 pounds for the aluminum LS going in the jet boat versus the 4.5 liter John Deere. Let's do it. I'm gonna stand as far back as I can with the controller and see what happens. Scale is zeroed out, reading 1 pound. Okay, we got tension on it. Here we go. Oh God, that sounds terrible. Ooh, jeez, man. 1,451 pounds. Holy crap, it's almost 3 times as much as one of our aluminum LS engines. All right, so for our first pro versus con weight, we've got 530 pounds for the gas burner versus 1,450 pounds for the diesel. So that one's pretty straightforward. We're gonna give the pro to the gas engine on that one.
Meeting my buddies out on the lake. We're headed out to a special place we love that just a few folks know. There's no signing up, no monthly dues. Take your Johnson, your Mercury.
All right, here it is, boys. The John Deere 4045. It is big. The redundancy that they build into the fire pump setups is awesome. So they've got dual ECUs here. It's got redundant starter solenoids. It's got 2 starters, 1 on each side. And it looks like the way they do it, they've got the primary ECU, the secondary ECU, And then this is the harness that actually goes down to the engine itself. And the way they switch it, it looks like they've got just a bunch of relays in here. So they've got some logic in here where it can flip all the relays, which basically switches all of the wiring from one to the other. That's pretty cool. If there was a way to keep that, I think we'd have to build our own control board. We wouldn't want to rely on this fire pump system board. Even if we didn't do the dual ECU thing, just having the redundant starter solenoids and this bell housing with 2 starters on it would definitely be worth keeping in the boat. We had lots of issues in the houseboat related to starters over the years. We had solenoids go bad, starters go bad. One time we burnt through the ring gear because the starter was messing up. We had to take the transmission out and put a new flywheel on it in the middle of the lake.
Hey Colin, what are you doing? Flywheel? Why'd you break the flywheel, dude? This boat's 40 years old.
So I would be on board with having redundant starters and solenoids, because if one goes bad, you can just try the other. Pop the oil drain off here, even though the dipstick's empty. That'll be a clue of what happened to this engine. Oh, water. Okay, that's not good. So besides the gallon of water that came out of the oil pan, the rest of it's full of this black gelatinous goo, which used to be the oil, it looks like. There's no metal shavings in there though, so normally if it spun a bearing and trashed it, you'd see shiny metal, but I'm not seeing any of that, so we'll keep digging. So before we tear the engine apart, I figured we'd test the electrical as much as we can. So I got a battery temporarily hooked up. The positive is going to both sides, since this is meant for 2 batteries. And I've got a hot and a ground going up to the control box where Brandon told us to run those. Okay, I'm just gonna, okay, we'll hear relays click. Okay, on this guy, it's in automatic, manual run. Screen works. Fuel rail pressure, voltage out of range low. Acknowledge. Machine hours, 75.6 hours. So not a lot of hours on a diesel for sure. It's showing both battery voltages. Coolant temp, 71. That's right, because that's about what it is here in the shop today. What does it do if I do manual crank 1? Oh. Since the engine's locked up, I shouldn't be doing this, but, oh. Ooh, oh, what? Oh, it's turning over. What? I couldn't turn it over with a breaker bar. I put this crowbar into the U-joint there and I was jumping on it, trying to get this thing to move, and it wouldn't. But the starters just finally started to turn it over, so it might be worth trying to get this thing to fire up, even though the oil pan's full of jelly. All right, next pro-con category. Let's talk about tunability for this thing versus the gas engine. Okay, on the gas engine, like the LS for the jet boat, we've got our standard OBD2 connector that they put in all cars now. We've got our factory computer, and with the software, we can tune this thing however we want. In contrast, John Deere has been at the forefront of the right to repair movement, trying to block it. So basically keeping people from being able to tune and basically even work on their John Deere equipment, mainly farmers.
We do not have the ability to hook up a computer to a tractor to diagnose it, to repair it.
John Deere is costing farmers and ranchers like Walter billions of dollars in lost income. When a modern John Deere tractor malfunctions, you can't diagnose the problem without John Deere's software. But John Deere won't let farmers or independent mechanics use it.
It is a problem that's been plaguing America's farmers.
I'd like to talk about how the EPA just swiftly kicked John Deere in the nuts.
The U.S. Federal Trade Commission is probing farm equipment maker John Deere over the company's repair policies.
So what does this mean for us if we want to use a John Deere engine in the boat? Basically, this ECU, they used on all different versions of this engine, including the marine version. And it's even used to run 6-cylinder engines. It's a really universal computer. And in the marine version, there's actually pins in this computer that you can set up for dual throttle inputs for a boat. So they built a lot of cool stuff into the computer for boats because they have a marine division at John Deere. But because we can't get the software to do anything with these computers, we cannot change this from the fire pump engine version to the marine version. The only workaround I've found so far is if we do like the farmers are doing.
There's pirated software out there from Eastern Europe that guys are utilizing to try to get around this.
And basically you buy like $1,000 electronic interface that can talk to the ECUs, But then we still have to get the software, so they're getting some Russian hacked version off the dark web. We'd get a burner laptop and install that software on it, because this would get all kinds of spyware and who knows what else. And then we might be able to reflash the computers for the marine version. Maybe. All right, so for tunability, hands down, gas engine wins. John Deere, you suck. Stop screwing over farmers. Assholes.
Side beds, 5 houseboat front porches, AstroTurf lawn chairs and tiki torches. Regular Joes rocking the boat, that's us. The Redneck Yacht Club.
All right. Turbo! I don't know what all this white chalky stuff is on the engine. I don't know if this thing, when it was in the fire, putting a fire out, maybe it got sprayed by fire department. Okay, all right. 8-ribbed serpentine belt, not much to it. Alternator, water pump. Looks like it did probably overheat, because now that I can get in here, all the paint is gone off of the top of the head here. I think that might be what did it. If we were gonna put these engines in the boat, we'd have to buy the marine exhaust manifold, which is water-cooled. A different turbo, so there's a water-cooled turbo for marine use. So that kind of brings us to the next pro and con we were thinking about is parts availability. The gas engine, because it's an automotive engine, you know, any auto parts store, Amazon, eBay, pretty much anywhere in the world you can get parts for that thing, sensors, no problem. The John Deere, the good thing about it, from what I keep reading, since they put this in everything, all kinds of farm equipment, construction equipment, I think the edge would go to the gas engine, but I don't think we'll have trouble getting parts for this. They just might not be cheap. Since we got this thing to actually turn over, I'm tempted to clean these fuel filters out and throw some diesel in it. And then we've got a manual priming pump here. Maybe we could see if this thing would just pop off for a half a second. For fun? You guys think that's a bad idea or a great idea? Yeah, look at that. Here's the return. Got red diesel coming out of there. Smells like diesel. Let's try and start this son of a bitch. I don't have giant like 0 or 1/0, 2/0 battery cable for the ground. So we're just gonna add grounds with the jumper cables here. We'll use the positive. We'll use the red too. We'll throw an extra ground down here. Now we got much more current carrying capacity here. Throw a battery charger on here, hit it with the 100 amps. All right, earmuffs, eye protection, fire extinguisher over there. Let's see what it does. Manual run. And we're gonna go with starter number 2. Primer. Here we go. Oh! Never mind. I gotta do that again so y'all can see that. Yeah, I mean, it was worth it for fun. Here we go. What the hell is that? Oh, what a mess. Well, okay. Did you say, I think I saw smoke though, which, you know, means it's got some compression still. Smoke. No. It was worth a shot. So that's a good segue to our next pro and con, reliability. And from everything I've been reading, the marine version of this, the guys love it in their boats. There's one on eBay right now. Some guy's selling it's got over 7,000 hours on it. I don't think there's any way I can argue the reliability of a gas engine versus a diesel. Diesel's just gonna win. That's it.
This is what we want. We want the vibes, them sweet, and we don't want no negative. This is what we want. Crowd of people, them a rock and the vibe just sweeter. This is what we want. Vibe just right and people rock it positive. This is what.
Well, the engine is shrinking pretty good. All right, get this intercooler or charge air cooler. Not sure what you diesel folks call it. I got this intercooler off here and I'm filing it just to see what kind of material it was made out of. It looks like it's mostly aluminum, but the end caps here, these are brass or bronze on the end here, so pretty good little unit they made for the intercooler. But from what I can tell on the marine version, they don't use this, so we wouldn't really have a need for it, I don't think. Got the lower coolant hose off and we got oil in the coolant. So, you know, that's never good. That means something happened inside this engine that is worse than I thought. So we'll keep digging. It's weird to me that I can't just yank a spark plug and do a compression test on an engine, since I've never worked on diesels. I guess they make compression testers where you can pull injectors out, right? But it's kind of a pain in the ass. Let's see what it looks like under the old valve cover here. Oh, yeah, rust bucket. All right, we've made it past all the pretty red paint into the bowels of the beast here, and you can tell this thing had a rough final few minutes of its life, whatever it was doing, putting out a fire or attempting to. Push rods, got stalactites growing on them. You never know, it still could be worth saving, so we'll keep going. We'll yank the head off at least, get that far. Next big category is power. So if we just look at the horsepower numbers, the gas engines, they're all 300 horsepower or more. The John Deere, it's 150 horsepower, but that's not the whole story. Torque and what RPM it's at is what we really care about. So in the houseboat, we used to run 1700 RPM with those Ford 351 gas engines, and that got us about 8 miles an hour. If we put new gas engines in there, even though they're 300 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque, it's all at over 3000 RPM, place where the engine would never run in the houseboat. The diesel, it's max torque, 1400 RPM, and the max horsepower is like a little over 2000 RPM. So that's perfect. That's right where the houseboat would run. And so for this application in the houseboat, power, we've got to give it to the diesel. All right, let's pop the head off this guy. See what it looks like. Oh, geez. A gentle pry. There we go. Okay. Well, this doesn't look that great, but it's about what I expected. Get some of this oily water out of here. Look at the pistons. Well, the pistons don't look too bad. You can see the part number on one of them. And here you can kind of get a good shot of the cylinder liners. So that's the one good thing about this engine is these basically casings here come out. And so as long as the block is good, you can rip these out, replace the pistons, these liners, and could maybe resurface the head or maybe get a new head off eBay. So as long as the block isn't cracked, it's probably salvageable. So for cost, this one's tough to say because even though the gas engines, we can get them everywhere, they were in all kinds of cars and trucks over the years, turning them into a boat engine is not cheap. So that's why we built our own exhaust for the junkyard jet boat. But the John Deere diesel stuff is not cheap either. So it's really tough to say. From looking at the prices, I think it's gonna be rough either way. So this one I think is for now a tie. So real quick, I'm gonna do a 3D scan of this engine. And then because we already have a scan of that LS1 that we're putting in the jet boat, we can compare the size of the engines, and then I can throw this in the model of the houseboat, and then we could see how it actually fits in the engine room. So for our pro versus con on the engine size, I've got both engines in Fusion 360 now, and when you actually start to measure these things, they're not as far apart as I thought they would be. So if we look at the dimensions of height, the LS1 from the bottom of the oil pan to the top of the exhaust, we're at 39 inches, where the John Deere is 33 inches. And then width, LS1's at 34 inches with that exhaust on it. John Deere's at 29 inches. So height and width, John Deere is actually smaller. The only one it loses out on is if you look at the engines from top down. LS1's about 6 inches shorter. Both of these engines are taller than the Ford 351s that were in the houseboat, so it might take some finagling to get those to fit under the deck in the back, but I think either one of them will probably work. So I think that one's probably a tie. Next category, fuel economy. So in the houseboat, we used to get a mile to the gallon or less with those Ford 351s. But what I'm reading from all the trawler guys who have these John Deere engines in their 40, 50-foot boats. They're getting more like 3, 4, 5 miles to the gallon. Some guys even said 7. From everything I read, we're gonna have to give this one to the diesel. And now the most important category to me, explosionability, which is not a word, I just made that up. I did a video on the channel a while back telling you guys the story of when the houseboat blew up. So the engine room filled with fuel, the generator set it off, it blew up, it hurt some of my friends, it blew the walls out of the back of the boat. It was a bad day. And then in all the following years on the houseboat, I never got a good night's sleep on that thing. With the generator running, every time I'd hear the engine RPM change, I would think it's about to blow up again. So if we go to diesel, diesel fumes don't explode. Yeah, they can still catch fire, but the massive explosion of a gas engine, that risk is just gone. And so that one, I kind of weigh heavier than every other category. That one 100%, hands down, it's got to go to the diesel. All right, so let's answer the question, which is better, gas versus diesel for the houseboat restoration? So in the categories that we care about, gas wins in 3 out of those. We've got a couple ties in there. And then diesel wins in 4. So it's got more, and it's got that explosion category that it definitely wins in. So I keep leaning towards diesel being the best. My problem is, I don't know if this John Deere diesel is gonna be the best. In the couple days it's taken to tear this thing apart, it's given me too much time to read and watch videos about all the stuff John Deere does to these farmers, and I don't know if I want to support a company that's doing that. Plus, we'd still have to buy a Russian-hacked version of their software to work on this thing. So maybe I'm missing something. You experts out there, let me know if there's something else I'm not thinking about, or if you've got any other diesel engine ideas besides this one. So for now, I don't know if we can call this one the winner. I think we got to keep the search going for now.
Farmers and ranchers, we have the highest suicide rate in the nation. And it's because our occupation is so stressful. Equipment breaking down, and you are not able to fix it, you can't do anything, that's a whole new level of stress.